Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for the Vampire Diaries, Season 6, Episode 15, Let Her Go. And, oh my god, guys, I wouldn't say I was looking forward to this episode because I knew it was going to be really sad. But, wow, did this episode pay off. Like, I thought last week's episode was sad. This was by far the hardest episode to ever watch the Vampire Diaries. Now, I wouldn't say that it was as emotional as last week, because last week was just so hard to watch. There are some moments in this episode that were very hard to watch. I have to say, Candace Acula, though, she was on her game this whole episode. I absolutely loved what they did with Caroline this episode, and I'll talk about some of the stuff that I really enjoyed. This episode did have other things going on, but mostly this episode was all about characters who have dealt with supernatural situations, have to deal with human situations, and that's really what this episode focuses on, is human situations like death, because, I mean, think about it. Liz is the first death that's happened that hasn't been a supernatural death. She was killed by cancer. Nothing they can do about it. They can't bring her back. So, of course, it's really sad to see, and let's just get into it. So, we start off where, and of course it makes us realize that Liz is never coming back to the show, but it was such a good send-off to her character, and basically we see in the beginning that Liz is comforting little Caroline when she crashes her bike and gets hurt and everything. And I like seeing these flashbacks again. As I said, I really like seeing it because it really shows how close these two really were. So Caroline asks if she's going to do it, but Liz says no. She asks Liz if she's going to die, but her mom says she won't for a long, long time. And I thought that was an interesting scene when we saw that. And Caroline asks what if her mom died and she's not here, and Liz says she'll be grown up by then and won't need her, but Caroline says she'll always need her, hugs her mom. And it really translates to today, because Caroline does still need Liz in her life. And she wakes up and sees everyone else has crashed in the living room. She looks at Stefan and walks out. And one of the things I love about this episode is Caroline is not letting this grief get her down. She's not letting her change her personality. And she finds Damon working on Liz's eulogy in the kitchen, because of course Liz told him to do that. And Caroline says today is going to be the worst day of her life and doesn't want to start it by bonding with Damon. And he says no offense, then tells her that today and tomorrow will be a cakewalk. He says the worst will be next week when there's nothing to distract her from her grief. And she thanks him for the tip and goes, and in the meantime, she's made a checklist of all the things she needs to get done. Basically just being like typical Caroline, which I actually liked really seeing, because when someone is affected by death, they handle it in different ways. Some people show it a lot more than others, and Caroline's the kind of person that doesn't really show it. I mean, you can tell that she's hurting, but she's not really letting it get her down, which I like seeing about this episode. I like that Caroline wasn't letting this one death just ruin her entire life. I like seeing that, because she should be able to go on with her life. And I like that Caroline's realizing, you know what, yeah, she's dead, but I should be able to go on with my life. And I thought that was a very well done scene. I very greatly appreciate that. I thought that was very well done. So she says she and Elena are casket shopping, and they head out, and we then see Bonnie. And Bonnie, of course, is on day 278 of her prison, and she's pretty convinced this episode that she is going to come back to the real world. And she's back with a Canadian headstone, says she has her magic back, and is headed home as soon as possible. And it's really the most confident we've seen Bonnie in a while. I mean, she's so confident in this episode. It was awesome to see Bonnie so confident. And this episode also brings back the return of Jo and Alaric, and Jo is throwing up and tells Alaric this is gross, and she says they haven't been dating long enough for this, and she says she's dying and curses the Thai food, which apparently she thinks she was food poisoned, and he says that they can skip the funeral, but she won't hear that. And I liked how, I gotta say, this was probably my favorite episode with Alaric and Jo. I've really liked him so far, but I love that Alaric was so loving towards her and didn't even go to the funeral just so he could be with her, because he loves her so much. And I love that about Alaric and Jo. Because to me, I didn't really, some people didn't really like the relationship, but I really do like their relationship. I think they're really good together, and I think just the fact that Alaric stayed with Jo instead of going to that funeral was really well done. So Kai's at their door, and Damon goes to shut it on him, and Kai says he really needs to see Jo, and she asks what he wants, and he says he called to tell her that he's sick, but she hung up. And this was a really interesting twist, because, of course, Jo, the one person that Jo never wants to see is Kai, and now she has to work with him, and that's actually a very interesting twist, and I was interested in seeing where they were going to go with this. And he says the merge wasn't really done right, and he's even a little nice now, but was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And he's throwing up chew, and Rick hands him a container to throw up into, and Kai says they don't have food poisoning. He says he's defective, and that's why she's sick, and he says he feels like he's dying. If he dies, the whole coven will die along with him. So he asks her to fix him. He has no idea what happened, but he knows that there was some sort of mishap there. So Damon's dressing for Liz's funeral, and I really love this next scene because Damon also is thinking about his mom's funeral, because of course he talked to Liz about last week, and I like this episode we really focused on it a lot, because he thinks back to his mom's funeral. He ties a tie on a much younger Stefan, who asks if Damon completed his speech, and Stefan says their mother's angle told him that everything will be alright, and he says she visited in his sleep, and Damon says she must have missed it, and he gets Stefan ready and sends him off. And basically, that was a really well-done scene. I thought that was really good overall, and I like seeing that it affected Stefan a lot more than Damon. Damon was kind of the person that didn't really let death affect him, and Stefan then stands behind him, reflects in the mirror, and asks about the eulogy, and Stefan says he needs advice and asks Damon not to be a dick about it. He says something happened between he and Caroline right before Liz died, and he doesn't know how to handle it. And of course, I think that's good that Stefan said that, because in the position that Caroline's in right now, they really should not be together right now. I mean, technically they kissed. I thought they were together, but no, they really need to think about what they really want to do there, because of how Caroline's acting right now, I don't think they should be together right now. So basically, Damon tells him to pull the ripcord. He says Stefan wouldn't ask if she was the one, and both times with someone wearing Elena's face. He asks if this feels like that, and Damon says Caroline wants the real deal, and if it's not real for Stefan, he has to pull the ripcord, but tells Stefan not to do it today. So Caroline gets condolences from Miss and I like that he told him, you know what, don't break it off with her today, just think about it, and I thought that was really good advice. So Caroline gets condolences from Miss McGrutter, and Elena shuffles her off, and Elena tells Caroline to work up some prepared responses to different categories of people, and Caroline tells her that she kissed Stefan, but hasn't talked to him about it, and Elena says to let that wait for tomorrow, and I like that Elena didn't really have much of a reaction to it, because at this point she really shouldn't. I mean, her and Stefan are friends, and Damon is her true love, so I don't really know why Caroline thinks Elena would care, because at this point, I don't think Elena would care, because, I mean, she's her best friend and everything, but I like that Elena is not like, oh my god, you kissed Stefan, oh my god, it's the biggest thing ever. I like that Elena's just like, whatever, you know, we'll talk about this later, and I think Elena's just being a really good friend to Caroline, I have to say. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, guys. A lot of people have said they hate the way Elena's been written this season. I think this is the best Elena's ever been written, really. I mean, she's not annoying, she's not dumb. This is the Elena we need to see. I love this side of Elena, and this is the best Elena's been written. So Jo examines a terrible-looking Kai. She jokingly asks if he's pregnant. That was such a funny scene. And I like with Jo and Kai, because there was so much emotion going on in this episode, that they had some of the more comedic stuff tonight, which I enjoyed. And he asks if Alaric needs to be there and calls him Baby Boo. And Alaric says, deal with it. Jo says there's nothing medically wrong. And Kai says, duh, he's magically diseased. And then he starts putting blood, and Kai grabs her accidentally, and he says he's feeling better. And he tells Jo he needs her magic. He asks her to put it in a bedpan or teddy bear and let him have it so they can both survive. And Kai reminds an angry Alaric that if he dies, so does Jo. And that if he dies, all the prison worlds collapse. And Alaric is really worried about the plural of the worlds, and Kai asks if no one mentioned that, and Bonnie now has magic. She has the Ascendant, the Eclipse, and is ready to go back home, so she basically has everything she needs to go back home, and when the world she's in shift and the Eclipse disappears, she stares up in shock as snow showers are downing on her, and she is just in utter shock because she really thought she'd have a chance on going back home, but of course now that's what's happened to Kai and Jo, it's not going to work as well for Bonnie. So, this should not be going on with the time prison she's in. It really shouldn't be, because it's supposed to be 1994 in May, and something else is going on. So, Damon rants to Elena about Liz asking him to write the eulogy. He says he's not a nice person and suggests this was a last gag by Liz. And Elena tells him this is about Caroline, not him, and kisses his cheek. And I like that Elena said that to him, because it is about Caroline. And he thinks back to his mom's funeral and standing with Stefan by her grave. And Stefan asks why Damon missed his speech, and he tells his brother that he didn't know what to say. And Stefan cries and tells him he could have just said goodbye. And now the memory inspires Damon to begin writing. And Jo tells Alaric she doesn't have a chance but to give Kai her magic. He says martyrs caving to the bad guys never works out in this world. He says if she wants him to fight to keep her magic and he'll stand with her. And he says if she gives it up, he loved her when she wasn't a witch and will still love her regardless. She smiles at him in the funeral's beginning, and Caroline stands looking at her mom in her coffin, and Stefan comes in and speaks her name. He asks if she's alright, and this whole scene was just so well done. And I love how concerned he was for Caroline, because of course he's in a really awkward stage right now. He doesn't know if he wants to move forward in a relationship. He doesn't really know if she wants one. He doesn't really know what to do about him and Caroline. But one of the things I love about Stefan is that he still is so supportive towards Caroline. I just really do love that about his character. I think that Stefan is just, that's why I love Stefan and Caroline, is because he's being so supportive towards her. And it doesn't seem forced. It feels real. It really does, and I love that. I really liked about these past 2 episodes. They haven't felt like they just wrote him in there. It felt real to me, really. That's what this death has really felt like. And Stefan asks if she's sure. She says no, then she doesn't know, and she says just now she was supposed to put him into a category, so she knew what to say to him, but didn't know what category he didn't want to be put in. So she says it's an inappropriate time to get to the bottom of that, and she offers to list the categories. And Stefan says he wants to talk to her about this, but later, when they're alone and this day is done. And she apologizes, and he pulls her into a hug, tells her not to be sorry. He says they can talk when this is all over, and he walks away. It's just too much for her right now. I mean, she's going through so much. She just lost Liz, and there's just so much going on in her life that she can't really handle this right now. So her mom is laying at rest in her dress police uniform, and Caroline touches her mom's badges, and she's starting to cry because she knows she's never going to see his uniform again. She's never going to see her mom's badges again. And Elaine is there and says everyone's ready, and Caroline says okay. And Caroline tells Liz that she's going to be all right. She says everything will be fine after today. And I think that really was just trying to show that Caroline is realizing that even though Liz is dead, she has gone to a better place. She's done suffering, and really, I think this is one of the first deaths in the Vampire Diaries history where their death is actually a good thing, because she was suffering and now she's not suffering. A lot of the deaths, I heard people talk about Caroline's father, like he died because he didn't want to transform into a vampire and had to be killed because of that. So Stefan's basically, I just read this. Bonnie is then freaking out. She wonders what snowy hell dimension she's in, and she looks around and sees a green light, and it looks much like the Northern Lights. And she goes to the house under the skylights and heads inside, and she finds an oil lamp and sees handwritten notes about the Northern Lights, and a plaque, and sees the year 1903, and it looks like she's in someone else's prison. So somehow she got to the year 1903. I don't know how she got there, but somehow she got there. And this next scene I really like, because we have not seen Tyler in a while, and it was great to see Tyler again. So Tyler's late. Matt notices that he's drunk, and Matt says he can't go in like that, and Tyler says to back off. He's not missing the funeral, and Matt shoves him back and says Caroline does not deserve Tyler bringing up his shit and his crap into her mom's funeral. And Matt walks in without him, and I like what Matt said to him. I mean, I do agree that, he knows that Tyler is very upset right now about Liv, and he doesn't want any sort of drama in Caroline's life. And one of the things I like about Matt is that even though, Caroline's not his girlfriend or anything, he still really cares about her. And that's one of the things I loved about every character, is that we see how many people care about Caroline. Even Damon cares about her. And Damon and Caroline hate each other. We know they hate each other. So it's really great to see all these people care for Caroline. It was really great, especially because she's such a, she is such a big part of the show, but she's also a supporting character. It was great to see her get the main focus for once, which I love seeing. So, officers come down, drape Liz's coffin with a flag. They then do the last call over the police radio band, and that was such a sad scene to see, because we see a police officer talking about how he's never going to hear that call again, and how, he can't get over her death either. He can't believe she's dead and everything. And it was a really sad scene to see, because, I mean, if they actually do that at police funerals, that has to be, like, a very hard thing to do, definitely. That definitely looks really sad to see, and Damon then comes to the stand, and he says Liz with his friend, and she asks him to pass a message to Caroline in her last moments, and he says he told her to tell Caroline herself, but she didn't get the chance, and he tells Caroline that her mom said she was so proud of her, and calls Caroline a beautiful, strong woman, a generous friend, and a bright light in a sea of darkness. And he says Liz and Caroline were extraordinary, and says Caroline isn't, so was Liz, and he says Liz was a hero to him. And that was just such a great speech, especially because Damon doesn't think he's a good person, and he came up with such a heartfelt speech. I love that. So Damon says, "Goodbye, Sheriff, you will be missed," and Caroline stands and thanks everyone for coming. And this right here, this got to me. I gotta say, guys, this got to me, and I was so happy when we saw this, because if you guys remember, a few seasons ago, Caroline sang on this show to Matt. It was all, she sang that song to him. And we haven't seen her sing since then. So we finally got to see her sing another song, and that was Sam Baker's Go in Peace. And she sings out. She's really strong about it, and I like that she didn't choke in the middle of the song. She actually sings it, and I've said this before, but Candace Nicola has a beautiful voice, and I think she really should become a singer. I don't know if she is a professional singer, but I definitely feel if she's not, she should become one because she really is a great singer. So, I thought that was a great scene. So Caroline thinks well wishes that offer condolences at the grill where everyone is gathered, and Tyler tells Matt he's sober and asks him to not make him leave. And Matt consents and says they've all been through so much. And Matt says watching the cops honor Liz made him want to join up, and he says he got the forms for an officer training program, and he says he also got an application for Tyler. And that was really great to see, especially because, you could see that Matt was so concerned about him, and I really do like the bonding between the two of them. So Caroline puts on her coat, and Elena asks if she's leaving, and Elena offers to walk her home, but Caroline says she needs to be alone tonight. She can't really handle all of this drama right now, and she needs to be by herself, which happens to people. That's one of the things that happens when you deal with grief, is sometimes you just need to be by yourself, and I thought that was really good. So she hugs Elena, thanks her for everything she did today, and says she'll never forget it. She tells Elena she'll be fine and that she needs to get it through today, and Elena looks thoughtful as she leaves. And Bonnie is then checking out the house and sees the photo of Stefan and Damon, an old Civil War era photo, and she then realizes that she is in that time when their mother died. So I thought that was really interesting when we saw that. I was just like, okay, that is really interesting. I didn't really know what was going on there. So Jo tells Kai that he, the Covenant, and the prison would thank him, and Alaric asks about the prison world, and Kai says there's a bunch of crappy people in it like him. He tells Jo she never liked being a witch anyway, and she tells him to shut up and takes his head in her hands and chants, and Bonnie then runs out of the house when it starts to shake, finds herself back in the woods of her former prison. She runs for the cave to complete the ritual while the eclipse is still in the sky, and Jo's chanting, and Bonnie's experiencing all kinds of crazy. Bonnie says she can get out of there, cuts her hand with the ascendant. She says she comes on, then she says come on, then starts chanting. A light opens above her. She sees someone else approaching her and asks who it is, and basically, Bonnie asks who she is, but then Bonnie's pulled away in a flash of bright light, and the second that happened, I'm like, she's back. She's coming back, and I thought that was such a well-done scene, especially because Bonnie had no idea what was going on, and because of the fact she thought she failed, and yet she didn't fail, I thought was great to see. I really love that Bonnie came back. The way she came back was great as well. I definitely really enjoyed that. So Jo is done chanting, and Kai smiles and thanks her. He congratulates her, then whispers into her ear, touches her face, calls her sissy, and tells her to have a good life. And it was really good to see Kai and Jo just be nice to each other for once, because we know that whole merge ceremony thing is coming. We know that, the merge ceremony happened, but we know that they're going to fight against each other, and it's cool to see them actually be civilized towards each other. I actually really do like Kai's character when he's nice to people, and that's one of the things I like about Kai, is he has all these layers to him, and he's a very layered character, and I definitely want to see more of this side of Kai, because I really enjoyed seeing it. So Lark steps closer and asks what he said, and Jo says he told her the reason that she's sick is not food poisoning. She says Kai told her she's pregnant. Jo says she doesn't know what to do with that, and she's not sure if she is pregnant, which could be a possibility, definitely. And Alaric then does something that was very interesting. He asks her right on the spot to marry her, and then he calls it a pity proposal. She says she doesn't even know if she wants kids, but he has a ring out. And he says he brought it the day after her brother died because he knew life is too short. And he says he was going to propose that morning, but then she started throwing up, and Alaric comes closer, says they can talk about choices, but he would love to have this baby with her. He says it's something he never thought he'd have. He says it's not a pity proposal. He says he loves her, drops to one knee, opens the box to show her a beautiful ring. He says, marry me, and she sits down in shock and says she can't believe it, and she has to be sure, and he says at least 92%, and she says yes, and hugs him, and that was such a well-done scene. I know some people could say they're moving too fast, and that was just way too fast the way they're going with it, but I overall really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really well-done scene because, Alaric is right. One of the themes of this episode is that life is too short, and you need to accept, you need to enjoy life while you can, and I think Alaric, even though they're making these speedy decisions, they're ready. Alaric has never really had someone in his life. He never thought he'd get to have children. He never thought he'd get to have a wife, and now that he has the opportunity, I like that he's going for it. I like where they're going with Alaric's character. So a lot of people have, and plus the fact that a lot of people said that Alaric's been background from then until now. So I like that he's finally getting his own storyline, and he has been getting his own storyline. They haven't really been focusing a lot on Jo and Alaric's relationship, and now that they are, I really like that they are because it's really well done, and I really do like these two together, and I really think that this is going to be a good wedding, definitely. I really hope they do get married because I'd love to see that. But I do feel they are rushing a bit too fast, but I think that in the long run, they should rush fast because of what Alaric said to her. So Damon sits at the bar drinking. When Stefan sits and tells him it was a nice speech, he asks what broke the writer's block, and he says he needed to be reminded that goodbye wasn't about him. And Damon tells Stefan that he failed him by not giving him the eulogy at their mother's funeral, and didn't want to fail anyone today. And Stefan says he thinks Damon's wrong about Caroline, and Stefan says he can't explain what he feels for Caroline, but it is something. He doesn't know what it is, and he says he thinks that this could turn to something even better than any love he's had before, and Damon tells him to stop wasting his time there with him. And I like that Damon's telling you, you got to go for it. But I like what Stefan is doing as well, because he's just waiting. He knows Caroline's going through a really hard time, and he doesn't want to just bombard her with things, because if he told her now, it'd just be too much for her. And she said, he basically says that Caroline could use a piece of news like that today. And Stefan leaves, and Caroline comes home, and he's ready to tell Caroline that he wants to be with her. And I thought that was such a well-done scene, because now he knows what he wants to do. He's about to tell her that he is in love with her and that he wants to be with her. And Caroline comes home carrying the folded flag from Mom's funeral. And this scene, oh my god, this was Candace Acola's best performance on the entire show. I've never seen her give a better performance than this scene. It was also probably Caroline's best scene on the show, just such a well-done scene. She closes the door, looks around the room, takes off her coat, touches her mom's sweater. She sniffs it and tries to keep from crying. She arranges some things and hears a sound. She says, "Elena, I said I was fine." And Elena tells her she doesn't believe her. And Elena says something has been bugging her all day. And she says Caroline was packing this all in like she had somewhere to be with no regard for tomorrow. And she says she realized Caroline doesn't want to feel tomorrow because she's going to turn off her humanity switch. And I didn't really think of that possibility just because of how cheerful she was being. I could definitely tell that Caroline was hiding something. But I didn't think it was that. I didn't think that she would go as drastic as turning off her humanity switch. But knowing Caroline and knowing that Elena did it, I can see definitely why Caroline would do that, because she thinks that's the right way to go. And Caroline says she thought she could get through with a rough patch, then pick herself up, but then says Damon made her realize it's going to get worse. And she said she didn't even think they were worse, and it's better this way. And Elena says nothing is better about flipping your humanity switch, because, of course, what happened to Elena? Elena was a bitch. I mean, she lost a lot of people. She didn't have any emotions, and it just really ruined her. And she really was really upset about that when she turned off humanity switch and everything. I mean, I've rewatched that scene many times. Nina Dobrev is awesome in that scene, don't get me wrong, but it still really is it's a great storyline for Elena, but it really did ruin her as a person. And I like that Elena is telling Caroline, don't do this because it's going to ruin you and you're not going to like it. And basically, Caroline says Elena couldn't handle the pain when Jeremy died, so she turned it off, and she says Damon died and she wiped out her memories. And Elena says those were two huge mistakes, which they were, but they've kind of been for the better. And Caroline says when Elena came out the other side, the worst of the pain would be gone. And Elena asks if Stefan had said the right thing. Would that help? And Caroline says it doesn't matter because he didn't. And Caroline cries and says her mom is dead and it hurts so bad she can't breathe. And she tells Elena she can't do worse and shouldn't have to. And Elena says that it's not fair, and she gets that. And she holds Caroline while she cries, and Elena begs her not to do this. And Caroline then snaps Elena's neck, and she's not letting her do this. And I thought that was such an awesome line when she's just like, "That's not your choice to make." And that was just so big. I think this is really the first time we've seen Caroline make a big decision on her own like this. But it's a bad decision. And I know some people are going to say it's repetitive writing, but no, it's really not. Because when Elena did this, she did this because of Jeremy and because she couldn't handle this emotion. Caroline is doing this because she's tired of people telling her not to do things, and she wants to do things for herself. And Damon tries to call Elena, then sees pancakes on the table. Bonnie's in the kitchen, and he holds out his arms, and she runs to him, leaps into his arms. It's such a well-done scene because it's two best friends back, basically back, and he says you made it, and he's very happy to see her again. And Stefan comes to Caroline's and apologizes for barging in, and he sees Elena slumped on the floor, checks on her, calls out, and of course he was going to tell Caroline that he was in love with her, and he then sees that something happened to Caroline. He has no idea what's going on. He's calling in for Caroline, there's no answer, and I'm pretty sure she's going to turn off her humanity switch. I know she's going to do it. I would not be surprised if when the show comes back, her humanity switch is going to be gone, because I don't know if you guys know, the show is going on a hiatus, just like all the other CW shows are. Bonnie tells Damon about his house in the 1903 prison world. She shows him video footage and the woman that was there before she got out, and Bonnie freezes the footage and he says, "Oh my god, it's my mother," and then that's how the episode ends. So yeah, Damon's mother is the one that Bonnie saw in the 1903 prison world. So I don't really know what happened there, if there's a way to bring her back. I definitely don't think that she's coming back to the show. This is not going to be like the originals, I don't think. But I definitely feel like it's going to be very interesting to see. I mostly want to talk about Caroline, because while I liked everything, I loved everything about this episode. If you guys don't notice, I loved everything about this episode. First of all, no Enzo, which was great to see, because last week we had Enzo, but this episode was perfect. It wasn't like last week, there was that one scene that just felt pointless to me. Nothing in this episode felt pointless. Everything felt important, because every storyline had to do with letting go of something, and not letting something get you down. You know, with Jo, it was her possibly being pregnant, and them having to go through the struggle of that. With, you know, with Damon, it was having to remember those memories of his mom dying and having to give that eulogy to Liz. With Caroline, of course, was getting over her mom. With Stefan, it was about, does he really want to make this choice with Caroline? And now he's not going to have a chance to, because she's going to want nothing to do with him, because she has no humanity now. So that's going to be really interesting to see. I'm very interested in seeing how Caroline's going to be without humanity. I mean, I definitely feel like she's going to be like how she was in Season 1 now, which I don't really know if I like, but it's going to be interesting to see Caroline kind of unlikable, because she's been so likable, and she is my favorite character on the show. If you guys don't know that, I've said this many times before. First of all, Candace Nicola's acting is just amazing, but also the fact that she's such a great character. It's going to be interesting to see if Caroline does turn off her humanity switch, which I feel she's going to. Now as far as Kai goes, I really like seeing Kai as a nice guy. I really do. I mean, we're so used to seeing Kai as this really mean presence and very abrasive presence who gets what he wants, and he's just so powerful. But in this episode, he just felt like a normal person, and that really goes back to what I think the real theme of this season is, and that is all about humanity, the different kinds of humanity, how to be human. Because think about it, everyone is dealing with something human right now. They're not dealing with anything supernatural, minus the whole thing with Damon's mother. Nothing in this episode really had to do with the supernatural. I mean, Jo thought that she was sick because of food poisoning, but it really is because she's possibly pregnant, and that's really interesting. And of course, Kai was sick because the merge didn't go right, and now he's okay because that's good. But Alaric and Tyler and Matt, I like seeing what happened with Tyler and Matt. I thought that was really well done as well. And even that didn't feel like it dragged on too much at all. I thought that was a really well done scene. Tyler definitely needs to get over Liv. I don't think we're going to see Liv anymore, really. And I'm wondering if Tyler's going to become a police officer, because, of course, you know, he gave him that position of possibly becoming a police officer, and I also think that'd be a good thing for Tyler. I really do think that Tyler becoming a police officer would be a good thing for him. I mean, Matt is a police officer, and Matt might be able to show him how he's been able to deal with things like this, because, I mean, Matt is very rational when it comes to dealing with feelings, and, I mean, he's the only human on the show, and Tyler's also human now, so it's great to see that Matt and Tyler are going to have this team up. I actually really do like this. I can see if someone doesn't like this, but I really do like it. I think it's a really good way that they're pairing them up and getting Tyler over this, which, again, it's very human the way they're handling it. As far as Elena goes, Elena definitely is not dead. I mean, she broke her neck. She's going to live. I mean, she's a vampire. She only dies if she gets a stake to her heart, so Elena, I mean, just her snapping Elena's neck, I don't know how Elena's going to react to this, but I know that Elena's going to be very concerned about Caroline. And, of course, now the show's going on a hiatus. Just great. Just another hiatus. That's a great thing to happen. I'm tired of these hiatuses. I really am, guys. I understand the CW needs to do this, but again, guys, a hiatus comes back on the first night of my school musical. The first night, literally, guys. I will not be able to review the Return of the Vampire Diaries because it comes back on the first night of my musical, and that's really annoying. It's not my musical, it's my school's musical, but you guys know what I mean. It's just really annoying overall that happens, but whatever. This episode was still by far the best episode of the season. I loved everything about this episode. I loved seeing the flashbacks with Caroline and her mom as well. It really just showed how close those two were and the relationship that they had. Hearing Caroline sing again was great to see. Seeing the Damon flashbacks were great. Seeing Damon give that eulogy to Liz was great. The whole funeral just felt really realistic. It didn't feel like it was too TV. It didn't. It really did not feel like too TV. It felt like a legit funeral. I mean, that thing that they did with the police, I think they really do that. If a police officer dies, I think they do that, and it's really sad to see, but I think that is what happens, and if that's true, then, yeah, that really sucks, definitely. And it's going to be interesting to really see what happens with Caroline. I know I've said this, but it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. And especially because the next episode is called The Downward Spiral. So that really gets me intrigued on what's going to happen. And also, guys, we have 5 episodes left of the season. Well, I think so. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20. No, we have 7 episodes left. We have 7 episodes left. Things are going to start to get crazy. I know they are. Caroline is downward spiral. That's going to be very interesting to see. I don't know how Caroline's going to be without her humanity. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, by far the best episode of the season. One of the hardest episodes to watch the Vampire Diaries by far, but such a well-done episode. Absolutely loved it. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for another movie review. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.